Hey everybody, it's a really cold morning and I'm super tired but it's so dark and gloomy and cloudy, and so instead of doing a vlog I thought I would do a story time. I know a lot of people have wanted to know my labor and delivery story, like how it went, like the ins and outs of it. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna just sit here and I'm gonna relax and just tell you guys the ins and outs of my labor and delivery. Okay, so Cole was born in September and I was about 38, almost 39 weeks when he was born. I had a super laid back, easy pregnancy for the most part. I mean, I got higher anxiety in my pregnancy in general. I tend to be more of an anxious person anyway, but those extra hormones really increased my anxiety. So besides that, excuse me, I'm getting a little bit of a scratchy throat. I hope I'm not getting sick, but besides that, it was a very easy pregnancy until the end. And towards the end, I started getting very high blood pressure every appointment I'd go to. So as the appointments start increasing in frequency towards the end, you're going sometimes twice a week, they were noticing that my blood pressure was really, really getting up there. It was getting a lot higher than normal. So my doctor let it go for I would say I had high blood pressure for at least a couple weeks before he pulled the trigger and induced me. But yeah, I basically ended up getting induced. And I don't really know what started the high blood pressure. I think it's just, hormones, probably the fact that your body is working a lot harder. You're carrying, a 6 to 8 pound kid inside, and so that's really hard on your body. So it could have just been that. So anyway, I got high blood pressure towards the end and I had to be induced. So Cole was due 2 weeks after I was induced. So basically how it went down is I just went into one of my routine appointments, and finally my doctor was just like, you know what, it's time to go. It's time to have this baby. You can't keep walking around with high blood pressure. That's dangerous for the mother. It's dangerous for the baby. So that very night that I had my appointment, I was scheduled for an induction. So I went in at about 8 p.m. on a Thursday. And what they did was, when I got there, I got all changed. They put an IV in you immediately, which was interesting, but, I was on IV fluids from the second I got there. And then they inserted, I think it's called Cervidil. Everything is such a, it's foggy in my memory because of just how stressed I was, the whole process. But they inserted Cervidil, which I thought was going to be an ointment that they put on my cervix, but really they inserted it in this they physically inserted a piece of plastic. It was really weird. I don't know if it was plastic or what, but they inserted that to basically touch my cervix, and on that plastic was a hormone to try and help me start dilating, because I was 0% dilated at this point. My body was not ready to go into labor. I probably would have gone over. And yeah, we were forcing my body into labor from square one, basically. So yeah, so they put the Cervidil in, and all through the night, because they put it in at 8 p.m., all through the night I was having period cramps that were kind of intense. And so in my mind I was thinking, oh, I'm for sure going into labor. This hurts. I am having such bad period cramps. These have to be contractions. And every time I would tell the nurses that, they'd just look at me this girl does not know what she's in for. But, they just kind of let me believe that I was in labor. Looking back on it, I definitely wasn't. But anyway, so those little period cramps kept going throughout the whole night, kind of kept me from sleeping in a sense, because they were pretty uncomfortable. And then the next morning, at 8 o'clock, so they waited 12 hours. So the next morning at about 8 o'clock a.m., they checked my cervix. They checked me for dilation. And of course, I was at a 0. Like 0% effaced, 0% everything. Like I was 100% closed. I cried. I remember being so disappointed, so sad. Like I really thought that I was progressing. I thought for sure I was in labor. And anyway, so I just remember feeling super disappointed and sad. And so, yeah, the nurses calmed me down. My mom was there and Chase was there, of course. And like finally I just kind of started relaxing and just realizing, okay, since I'm getting induced, like this could take a while. So, maybe about 2 hours later, around lunchtime, my water just broke. Like I was just laying in bed and I was like, all of a sudden, like that gush of water that you feel. And my nurse didn't even believe me. She was like, oh, no. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure it broke. Like, come and check. So she came and checked, and of course it broke. So Chase wasn't even there. He was going to get me a milkshake and fries from like a local, from like a local diner or something. I don't know if it's a diner, more like a drive-in burger joint. Anyway, that's not what you guys are here to listen to. But so he was gone. My mom was there. And yeah, after that, my contractions got so bad. Like I cannot even describe to you guys how much pain I was in. And I thought like it might be different than other people's labors because like going into it, all my friends, like even my mom, like anybody who'd had a kid before was like, it hurts, but it's not like unbearable. Well, mine was like unbearable. Like I thought I was gonna die. Like it was that bad. And so my contractions like really started picking up in frequency and like I was in so much pain and I really wanted my epidural. Like I was begging the nurses. I was like, please, like how much longer do I have to wait? I really want an epidural. And they wouldn't give me one. They would not give me an epidural. Like I didn't get my epidural until like I think 5 p.m., 4 or 5 p.m. that day. And my contractions started around 10. The reason they wouldn't give me an epidural is since I was induced and I was not progressed at all, like I was not dilated, not effaced, none of it, they didn't want to set my body back by giving me an epidural. Apparently that can happen. So they really wanted me to progress naturally, you know, without any kind of painkillers or whatnot. But eventually I was in so much pain that they gave me fentanyl, I think is what it's called. And it didn't really help, I'll be honest. It made me feel drunk and it relaxed me more, but like it did not really help with the pain. Like I was in so much pain, and it come to find out the reason I was in that much pain is because I was having back labor. So Cole was flipped sunny side up is what they call it, and the back of his head was rubbing against my spine, like the lower part of my spine, and he was born with like a huge hematoma, like red bruise on his head. So like that was proof that his head was rubbing up against my spine. And so anyway, yeah, so they would check me after that, you know, after my contractions really started happening, and I was slowly starting to dilate, but like not as quickly as I wanted to, obviously, because I really wanted that epidural, and I knew that they couldn't give me the epidural until I was like, I don't know what she said, like 7 or 8 centimeters, or like really close to the end. So I was so stressed. But the main way that I labored that really helped was like actually walking the halls. The nurse kept telling me like, just walk around, just walk the halls. And like, you don't want to. Like when you're in that much pain, you just want to lay down, you know, but like she was really trying to encourage me to walk and stuff, and that really helped. And so I went on walks, but like every time I'd get a contraction, I had to stop and like hold on to the bars. Like they have like bars along the walls that you can hold on to. So I'd have to do that and just like breathe through them, and it was so painful. It's so hard to even think back on it because I was just in so much pain. But so anyway, yeah, I just continued doing that as I continued having contractions, and I was finally able to wrap my head around them. Like, they never got less painful. In fact, it got worse and like more frequent. But like, I was finally able to find like a coping mechanism in my head, like a way to just get through them. And so finally the time came that I got my epidural, which was great. It seemed like it took forever, but the guy that gave me the epidural gave me like a fantastic epidural. It was amazing. Like, I couldn't feel anything, but when I was pushing, I could feel when I needed to push. So it was perfect. Like, couldn't feel any pain, but I could feel exactly when I needed to push, like with the contractions. So he did a great job. But like, when I wasn't able to feel my legs right away, like they give you the epidural and then you obviously lose feeling from like your hips down, or more like your abdomen down, and I panicked. I got like a panic attack. My heart was racing. Like, I was just, at that point, I was just under so much stress. I was stressed about my blood pressure because, of course, like going through the labor and having high blood pressure, like yeah, it's not gonna help it. It's not gonna help it lower. In fact, like, being under that much pain makes it higher. So my blood pressure was screaming high. My heart was racing because of having an anxiety attack, basically. So finally, I was able to calm myself down. All the doctors came rushing in, of course, because it's like, you know, they get signaled when, like, you know, you could be in danger. So anyway, I was able to calm myself down. Then I finally was relaxing, and the epidural was helping, and then finally they came in and checked me a couple more times, and then by the second time they're like, okay, like, you're fully dilated, let's start pushing. And the pushing was like the easy part. Like, I would push like 15 million more times than going through the actual contractions. But so I pushed for about 45 minutes, and like I was telling you guys before, like, I could feel my contractions, like no pain at all, but I could just feel that a little bit of pressure. So I knew exactly when one was coming, and I was able to know when to push with every single one. Like, the nurses didn't have to tell me, like, I could feel when I needed to push. So he came out much quicker, and the nurses actually put a mirror in front of me so that I could actually see how I was progressing, like how much of his head was coming out, you know, how close was I, and it actually really motivated me. Like, I would highly recommend asking the nurses to give you a mirror so that you can, you know, see how hard do I have to push to get this far. And so I think that I ended up pushing for less amount of time than I would have if they didn't give me a mirror. So anyway, I pushed for about 45 minutes, and then Cole was born. And I just remember that's the happiest moment. I mean, it's all worth it at that point. And he was born, and then I thought that my blood pressure was gonna start dropping right away after he got out, but like, it actually got worse. Like, my blood pressure kept getting worse. And so that part was super sad, because you just have a baby and you're really excited to just spend time with your baby, like not worry about anything, you know, but that was not the case with me. My blood pressure got much worse. I ended up having to stay in the hospital for a while. I don't remember how many nights, but a lot longer than the norm. And then on top of that, like, because of the epidural, and I think also because of the swelling in the area, I couldn't pee. I couldn't pee for days, like probably 2 to 3 days. And that was really stressful. Like, I was worried, like, that I wouldn't be able to pee again. Like, of course that wasn't going to be the case, but it's like, with all the stress that was happening, and then that on top of it, it just like gave me that fear. Like, what if I can't ever pee again? And so they had to keep giving me catheters. And let me tell you, that is like the most painful thing. Like, you just gave birth out of your hoo-ha, basically, and they're giving you a catheter. They're opening up that sore area to give you a catheter every time you need to pee. And it was so awful. Like, I actually screamed several times, and like, it was just bad. And so That part was horrible. Like, my recovery in general was really rough, and I just thought, I thought, like, okay, after I get him out, like, it's gonna be smooth sailing from here. My blood pressure's gonna lower, like, everything's gonna be all good. I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna relax, and, like, it was not like that. So they gave me a few days to see if my blood pressure would lower on its own, and it didn't. So I ended up having to get on medication for a while. And since I'd never had high blood pressure before, the medications that they gave me, they tested a few. And, like, the first 3 that they gave me didn't agree with me. Like, they made my heart race. Like, I would take it, and then maybe, like, 30 minutes or so after I would take it, my heart would just be racing. Like, we're talking, like, not just, like, beating fast, like, in, like, 160, like, plus. Like, it was so scary. And so my mom was still here, like, helping me through it, and Chase and stuff. And I finally told my mom, like, Mom, I can't go through that medication every time I have to take it. Like, I cannot go through that amount of stress. And so I looked it up, and that is not a normal reaction. Like, it should not be causing your heart to do that. So I went back to the doctors, like, several times. Like, I was, like, going to the doctor, like, every day for a while after my birth. And they finally got me a drug that didn't have any negative effects. It was basically a diuretic, so all it did was, like, help my body flush any of that extra fluid it was retaining, and it just made me pee a lot. And so that worked. That helped to lower my blood pressure completely, without any of those side effects. So finally I found something that worked. And so I took that for probably about a month after I gave birth. And so anyway, yeah, so that helped to lower it completely. And then about a month after, like, my body had leveled out. Like, I was ready to, live life basically without blood pressure medications. Like, my blood pressure was stable. And I give a lot of credit to vitamins I was taking. My mom had taught me that if you take 250 milligram magnesium pills with 10,000 IU vitamin D, it's a natural blood pressure reducer, I guess. And I honestly believe that is what got my blood pressure low enough to be able to go off the medications. And I still take that combination every day, and my blood pressure is very low. It's, like, actually the best it's ever been. And so, yeah, I would highly recommend that if you're having high blood pressure at all and you're having to take medications, give that combination a try because it works. So, yeah, that was basically my story. It was a rough labor. It was a rough few days. It was a little more rough than I expected. And, a lot of your friends will tell you, like, oh, like, yeah, it's, like, it's not fun, but you'll forget about it and want to have another kid. I'm still at the point where I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to have another kid anytime soon. Like, it still plagues my mind, like, just how, like, stressful my labor was. So definitely I think everything had to do with having to be induced. Like, if my body was naturally ready to go into labor, I think it would have been a much easier experience, a lot more smooth and, still uncomfortable. Nobody's saying labor is, like, fun or, like, pain-free, but, like, I think it would have been a lot quicker, and I think a lot less painful, especially if Cole was turned the right way and not, like, sunny side up. Like, I think my labor would have been less painful. So it's like, just hearing my labor story, don't freak out. Everybody's labor is different. Everybody's experiences is different. And even if you do get induced, you might have an easier time than I did. So definitely I don't want to be putting this video out there to freak people out. Just keep in mind that everybody's situation is different, and that was just mine. And it's like, maybe next time when I have another kid, like, it'll be completely smooth sailing, You never know. But that was my story with getting my little Cole, and you know, it was all worth it in the end. Like, I love having Cole, and he's just a blessing. So, you know, in the end, I would do that all over again to have him. But, you know, it was a struggle, and, you know, you just have to look to the next pregnancy and just hope for the best. You know, every pregnancy is different. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all the comments that you guys leave, and just interacting with me. It's so good to hear from you guys. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so, and please like this video if you want to see more like this, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.